My name is Mara Ellison. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a patient advocacy case manager. Every day, I help families question medical decisions they do not understand. I help them request records, appeal denials, and make sure their concerns are documented. I learned how important those things were because 8 years ago, when my own newborn daughter died, I did not know how to make anyone listen to me. Iris was 6 days old. Briarwood Children's Hospital said she had died from an inherited heart rhythm disorder. An uncertain genetic result connected the condition to my side of the family, and that was all my husband, Adrian, needed to hear. "She got it from your bloodline," he told me. Not long afterward, he filed for divorce. I left our marriage with almost nothing except a red genetic counseling folder, Iris's hospital bracelet, and the yellow blanket my mother had knitted for her. For 8 years, I lived with the possibility that Adrian had been right. Then Briarwood called me. I was at my desk, reviewing an appeal for another family, when the hospital's name appeared on my phone. I almost let it ring out. I had not spoken to anyone from Briarwood in years. Even seeing the name brought back fluorescent corridors, closed doors, and the terrible feeling of being surrounded by experts while understanding nothing. I answered because ignoring hospitals was no longer part of who I wanted to be. "Ms. Ellison." The woman introduced herself as Dr. Naomi Chen, Briarwood's chief patient safety and integrity officer. Her voice was composed, but there was a careful pause before she mentioned Iris. "We recently completed a review of several archived cases," she said. "Your daughter's file was included." My hand tightened around the phone. "What kind of review?" "A genetic and medication safety review." I looked across my office toward the locked drawer where I kept Iris's records. I had carried that red folder through 3 apartments and 2 jobs, but I rarely opened it. Dr. Chen continued. "The genetic variant used to support Iris's original diagnosis has been reclassified. It is benign. It could not have caused the medical crisis that led to her death." For several seconds, I heard the words without understanding them. "Are you saying it didn't come from me?" "I'm saying Iris did not die from an inherited disorder." My chair rolled backward when I stood. I pressed one hand against the desk to steady myself. 8 years of Adrian's accusation moved through my mind. 8 years of watching my mother grow quiet whenever Iris's name came up. 8 years of wondering whether my body had carried something dangerous without my knowing. "You're sure?" "Yes." The answer should have felt like relief. Instead, it frightened me. If the inherited condition had not caused Iris's death, then something else had. Dr. Chen seemed to understand where my thoughts had gone. "Our audit uncovered an irregularity in the delivery of the medication that had been stabilizing Iris," she said. "The interruption was not documented by her assigned treatment team." "What does that mean?" "It means someone deliberately interfered with her medication." The office around me disappeared. I could hear Dr. Chen speaking, but all I could see was Iris beneath that yellow blanket. She had been so small that the hospital bracelet looked too large around her wrist. I sat down again. "Who?" "That is one of the reasons I'm calling." She explained that Briarwood had recovered a surveillance recording from the night Iris died. The recording had not been included in the file released to me 8 years earlier. I remembered requesting it. I remembered being told that no relevant footage existed. "You had a recording this entire time." "It was recovered during an archival audit," Dr. Chen said carefully. "I cannot responsibly explain the complete history over the phone, but the footage shows someone entering the restricted treatment area during the critical period." "Is it a doctor?" "We need you to view the recording." The way she said it made my skin turn cold. "Why me?" "Because we believe you may recognize the person." That created a second question, one even more terrifying than the first. Someone I knew had been near Iris's medication, and for 8 years, the recording that showed it had remained hidden. Before I tell you what happened when Briarwood played that video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and like this video. If you have ever been blamed by people who held more power than you, then you understand why stories like this should not disappear into silence. I agreed to meet Dr. Chen. After the call ended, I unlocked my desk drawer and removed the red folder. Iris's hospital bracelet rested inside the front pocket, exactly where I had left it. I placed it across my palm. Her name was still readable. Iris Vale. For 8 years, the hospital had treated her death as a genetic tragedy. Adrian had treated it as proof that something was wrong with me. I had tried to build a life around that conclusion, because fighting it had once cost more strength than I possessed. Now one phone call had reopened everything. To understand why the missing recording frightened me so much, I need to take you back to 2018, to the week Iris was born, when I was 26 and still believed the Vale family would protect us. Adrian and I had expected to leave the hospital carrying our daughter. Instead, Iris developed a serious heart rhythm instability shortly after birth and was transferred to Briarwood Children's Hospital. The specialists told us her condition was dangerous but treatable. The medication they started appeared to be stabilizing her while they searched for an explanation. I held on to the word treatable. My mother, Ruth, brought the yellow blanket she had spent months knitting. She folded it around Iris with such care that even one of the nurses stopped to admire it. Adrian stood beside me, one hand resting on my shoulder. He was frightened, but we were still a team then, or at least I believed we were. That changed when his mother arrived. Dr. Celeste Vale was not simply my mother-in-law. At the time, she was Briarwood's director of pediatric medication safety. She had worked inside that hospital for years. Nurses knew her. Administrators returned her calls. Younger doctors lowered their voices when she entered a room. Celeste looked at Iris's chart before she looked at me. "What have they started?" she asked. A nurse explained the treatment plan. Celeste's expression tightened. "This is not the approach I would have chosen." The nurse reminded her that Iris's assigned specialists had approved it. Celeste closed the chart. "I know this hospital," she said, "and I know what they're doing." I was 26, exhausted, and terrified of losing my daughter. So when Celeste spoke with that much certainty, I mistook her authority for safety. I did not yet understand that certainty and truth were not always the same thing. Celeste spent the next hour questioning every decision the assigned specialists had made. She never raised her voice. She did not need to. Whenever a nurse answered her, Celeste found another question. Whenever the attending cardiologist explained the treatment, she replied with a colder version of the same concern. "The medication is stabilizing her," the cardiologist finally said. "We are not changing a treatment that is working." Celeste folded her arms. "I hope you're right." When the doctor left, Adrian looked at his mother. "You think they're making a mistake?" "I think they're moving too quickly." That frightened me more than anything the doctors had said. "Should we request another specialist?" I asked. Celeste turned toward me. "What you should do is remain calm. Iris needs parents who can think clearly." It sounded reasonable, but the words placed me outside every important decision. Celeste was the expert. Adrian was her son. I was the frightened mother whose questions could be dismissed as panic. Adrian touched my shoulder. "My mother knows this hospital better than anyone." I nodded because I wanted to believe knowledge and loyalty were the same thing. For the next 2 days, Iris's condition appeared to improve. Her monitors became steadier. The medication was doing what the doctors hoped it would do. I sat beside her for hours, speaking softly even when I knew she was asleep. I told her about the room waiting for her at home. I told her about the yellow curtains Adrian had complained were too bright. I promised her that her grandmother Ruth would spoil her. My mother came every afternoon. Unlike Celeste, Ruth never acted as if she understood the medical equipment. She simply sat beside me, held my hand, and adjusted the yellow blanket whenever it slipped. On Iris's third day at Briarwood, a genetic counselor brought us a preliminary report. The test had identified a variant connected to some heart rhythm conditions. The same variant appeared in a sample my mother had provided. The counselor repeated one word several times. Uncertain. The result did not establish that the variant caused Iris's condition. It required further analysis. Healthy people could carry similar variants without becoming ill. Celeste arrived before the meeting ended. She took the report and read it in silence. "This came through Mara's maternal line?" she asked. The counselor nodded cautiously. "But its significance is uncertain." Celeste looked at Adrian. "At least now, we know where the doctors should be looking." "We don't know that it caused this," I said. Celeste lowered the report. "No one is blaming you, Mara." I had not accused her of blaming me. That was when I first felt something shift between Adrian and me. He stopped asking whether Iris was improving and began asking whether anyone in my family had unexplained heart problems. He wanted to know about distant relatives, old illnesses, and people Ruth barely remembered. My mother answered every question. With each answer, she looked more guilty. The attending cardiologist tried to keep the result in perspective. "This is not a confirmed diagnosis," he told us. "Right now, the medication is protecting Iris while we continue testing." Celeste disagreed. She believed the medication was too aggressive for a child whose instability might be temporary. She wanted the team to reduce it and wait for a specialist she trusted. The attending refused. Afterward, Celeste stood outside Iris's room, staring through the glass. "They're refusing to listen because they don't want to admit they may have chosen the wrong protocol," she said. Adrian glanced toward the nurse's station. "What can we do?" "Nothing tonight," she answered. She said it calmly, but something about the answer stayed with me. That evening, Adrian convinced me to leave the treatment area long enough to eat and wash my face. My mother had already gone home. Celeste said she would remain nearby in case the specialists returned. I did not want to leave Iris. Adrian told me we would be gone for 15 minutes. When we returned, Celeste was standing near the elevators. "I thought you were staying," I said. They asked everyone to clear the area during a shift review. She looked composed, but she was holding her hospital identification badge in one hand. I noticed it. I remembered noticing it. For 8 years, I told myself it meant nothing. Later that night, a monitor alarm sounded from Iris's room. A nurse rushed inside, then another. The attending cardiologist arrived moments later. Adrian and I were moved into the corridor while the team worked. Celeste appeared beside us so quickly that I assumed someone had called her. No one explained why Iris's condition had changed so suddenly. I heard one nurse ask another about a gap in the medication record. Before the second nurse could answer, Celeste stepped between them. "This is not the time for speculation," she said. The nurses separated. I asked Celeste what they meant. "There are always irregular readings during an emergency," she told me. "Let them work." But the irregularity had come before the emergency. I did not understand that then. The doctors were unable to restore the stability Iris had shown only hours earlier. We lost her before morning. The room became painfully quiet after the equipment was silenced. My mother arrived carrying the yellow blanket, not knowing she would never take Iris home inside it. I remember Ruth holding me. I remember Adrian standing against the wall with both hands over his face. And I remember Celeste speaking to the attending physician near the doorway. "The genetic finding explains the deterioration," she said. "You need to document that before everyone starts looking for mistakes that did not happen." The attending reminded her that the genetic result remained uncertain. Celeste replied that uncertainty did not make it irrelevant. By the end of that day, the story had already begun changing. The treatment interruption became a technical inconsistency. The uncertain genetic result became the likely diagnosis. Celeste's disagreement with the treatment disappeared from the explanations given to us. I asked for the medication history. A hospital administrator told me the complete case would undergo internal review. I asked about the nurses I had overheard. Celeste said grief was causing me to connect unrelated details. Adrian believed her. At home, he moved into the guest room. He barely spoke to me unless he was asking another question about my family's medical history. My mother stopped visiting because she thought her presence made things worse. One evening, I found Adrian sitting at the kitchen table with the preliminary genetic report in front of him. The word uncertain was printed clearly near the top. He pointed to the reference to my mother's sample. She got it from your bloodline. I stared at him. The doctors said they don't know that. My mother does. Your mother is Iris's cardiologist. She has spent her entire career protecting children from medication errors. The cruelty of that sentence did not register until years later. At the time, all I heard was the accusation. You think I did this to her? I think your family carried something, and no one knew. That is not the same as knowing it killed her. He pushed the report toward me. I can't keep arguing about facts because you don't like what they mean. The divorce papers arrived not long afterward. I had taken unpaid leave during my pregnancy and Iris's hospitalization. Our premarital agreement protected most of the assets Adrian had brought into the marriage. I did not possess the money or strength for a prolonged fight. Adrian kept the house. I left with my clothes, the red genetic folder, Iris's bracelet, and the yellow blanket. Walking away with nothing was not only about property. I walked away without my husband, without an honest explanation, and without confidence in my own memory. Before the divorce was finalized, I submitted a written request to Briarwood for every part of Iris's medical file. I specifically requested medication records, access logs, internal review documents, and surveillance footage covering the treatment area. The hospital released hundreds of pages. The surveillance footage was not among them. A records officer informed me that no relevant recording was available. I submitted a second letter demanding that anything connected to Iris's case be preserved. No one answered. For years, the red folder remained closed. My mother carried her own copy of the genetic report. Whenever she saw the yellow blanket, her face changed. I'm sorry, she told me once. You didn't do anything. But it came through me. We don't know that. The words sounded weak because I no longer knew what I believed. The accusation followed both of us. I began working in patient advocacy almost by accident. A friend needed help challenging an insurance denial, and I understood what it felt like to receive official language designed to end a conversation. I helped her request the complete record. Then I helped someone else. Eventually, I trained for the work and joined a patient advocacy organization. I learned how medical records were stored, how corrections were requested, and how one unchecked conclusion could follow a person for years. I became skilled at demanding evidence for other families. I still could not open Iris's folder without hearing Adrian's voice. That was the woman Dr. Naomi Chen contacted 8 years later. 3 days after her call, I returned to Briarwood. The hospital lobby had been renovated, but I recognized the smell before the doors closed behind me. My body remembered the building more quickly than my mind did. Dr. Chen met me near the patient integrity offices. She did not offer easy sympathy. She did not tell me that every institution made mistakes. She brought me into a private conference room and placed 3 files on the table. The first contained the updated genetic analysis. The second contained the medication audit. The third held information about the recovered recording. Dr. Chen opened the genetic report first. The variant identified in Iris and your mother is now classified as benign, she explained. After reviewing the original data, Our independent specialists concluded that the inherited disorder diagnosis should never have been treated as confirmed. Then why was it? That is part of what we are investigating. She showed me the original case review. Several passages treated Celeste's opinion as if she had been one of Iris's assigned specialists. She had not been. Dr. Vale held a senior safety position, Dr. Chen said, but she had a personal relationship with the patient. She should not have directed this review. Did she? We have evidence that she influenced it. Dr. Chen opened the medication audit. It showed a break in Iris's prescribed treatment during the period before her condition changed. The system had recorded the interruption, but the data had never been integrated into the final review. This was not a mechanical failure, Dr. Chen said. Someone with authorized access changed the medication delivery. Celeste, we need to show you the recording before I answer that. A large monitor was mounted on the wall. Dr. Chen dimmed the lights and entered a code. The recording had no sound. Its image was grainy, but the timestamp was clear. The camera showed the restricted corridor outside Iris's treatment area. A nurse left the room. For several seconds, no one appeared. Then a woman entered from the far side of the corridor. She wore a dark coat over hospital clothing. Her silver hair was pinned back. An identification badge hung near her waist. She stopped before entering Iris's room and looked in both directions. I leaned forward. The woman turned toward the camera. I recognized her face immediately. It was Celeste. I could not speak. On the screen, she used her badge to enter the restricted area. She remained inside for several minutes. Through the glass panel, the recording captured part of her movement near Iris's medication equipment. Celeste left before the nurse returned. Dr. Chen paused the recording. We matched the timestamp to the medication system, she said. The interruption occurred while Dr. Vale was inside. My hands had gone cold. Memories I had spent 8 years doubting returned in a different order. Celeste holding her badge near the elevators. The nurses mentioning a gap. Celeste stopping their conversation. Her insistence that the genetic finding explained everything. Adrian telling me that his mother had spent her career protecting children from medication errors. She changed it, I said. The evidence indicates that she deliberately interfered with the prescribed treatment. Why? We don't know her complete explanation yet. Dr. Chen showed me an electronic access report. Celeste's badge had opened the restricted door during the exact period shown in the recording. She had no authorized role in Iris's direct care, Dr. Chen said. Then why didn't anyone investigate her? Because she controlled the safety review that should have investigated the access. That answer was worse than the recording. Celeste had not merely entered the room. She had placed herself close enough to the review process to decide which questions would be asked. What happened to this footage? We recovered it from a restricted legal archive during the merger audit. It had been stored under an unrelated incident number. Who moved it? The archival trail leads back to the original safety office. Celeste's office. Dr. Chen explained that my preservation request had required Briarwood to retain a copy before the ordinary surveillance system erased it. The copy survived because the hospital could not legally destroy material covered by that request. Someone had hidden it, but they had been unable to erase it. My weakest act from 8 years earlier, the letter I had written while barely able to function, was the reason the truth still existed. Dr. Chen asked whether I wanted to stop. No. She played the recording again. This time, I did not watch Celeste's face. I watched the timestamp. I wanted to remember that truth could be measured. Adrian called me that evening. Briarwood had notified him that Iris's case was being reopened. His voice sounded controlled, the way it had during our divorce. They told me there's a video. There is. And my mother is in it. I said nothing. Myra, she worked there. Her being in a hospital corridor does not prove she harmed Iris. She entered a restricted room. Her badge record matches the interruption. She was probably checking the treatment because those doctors would not listen to her. That was not her decision to make. She was Iris's grandmother. She was not Iris's doctor. He exhaled slowly. My mother would never intentionally hurt her. I didn't say she intended for Iris to die. I said she interfered with medication that was keeping her stable. You have wanted someone else to blame since the beginning. The words struck the same place they had 8 years earlier. But I was no longer 26, exhausted, and standing alone in his kitchen. No, Adrian, I wanted evidence. Now I have it. He went quiet. Then his voice softened. There may be a way to handle this privately. There it was. Not concern for Iris, not an apology, containment. He explained that the hospital would likely offer a settlement. His family could cooperate. The records could be corrected without turning everything into a public case. What would you want in return? I asked. Nothing. That isn't true. Mara, my mother, is 62. Her career is over. Destroying her publicly will not bring Iris back. Protecting her did not bring Iris back either. This could damage people who had nothing to do with it. You mean it could damage you? He did not answer. I remembered the divorce papers. I remembered him pointing at my mother's genetic result as if it were a confession. If the hospital asks whether I want an independent investigation, I said, my answer is yes. Myra, I spent 8 years carrying your mother's guilt. I'm not carrying her reputation, too. I ended the call. The independent investigation began the following week. The medication audit confirmed that the interruption had lasted long enough to remove the protection Iris's treatment had been providing. Separate specialists reviewed the genetic evidence and agreed that the benign variant could not explain what happened. The recording established Celeste's presence. Her badge established her access. The internal documents established her influence over the review. But one question remained. What had Celeste believed she was doing? Her first written response denied any interference. She claimed that she had entered only to check on her granddaughter and that the video did not clearly show contact with the medication system. Then investigators produced the access data. Her second response changed. She claimed she had noticed a potential safety issue and had acted within her professional responsibility. But the assigned treatment team had documented no such issue. Her third response stated that any action she took had been necessary because the attending physicians refused to consider her concerns. Each explanation surrendered part of the one before it. Dr. Chen showed me the progression. She is no longer denying that she intervened, she said. She is disputing responsibility for the result. Does the evidence prove the interruption caused Iris's decline? The independent review is close to a final conclusion. Close was not enough. I had spent 8 years being destroyed by a conclusion that had never been proven. I would not replace one unsupported certainty with another simply because it favored me. I want them to finish, I said. Dr. Chen nodded. That is what they are doing. My mother came with me to the next meeting. Ruth carried the yellow blanket inside a cloth bag. She had not planned to bring it, but she said leaving it at home felt wrong. A genetic specialist explained that the variant Ruth and I carried appeared in healthy people and had no established connection to Iris's crisis. My mother listened without moving. So I didn't give it to her, she asked. You passed on a harmless genetic variation, the specialist said. It did not cause her condition or her death. Ruth covered her mouth. For 8 years, she had apologized for something that existed only inside a misinterpreted report. Outside the hospital, she unfolded the yellow blanket across her lap. I thought every time you looked at me, you saw where it came from, she said. I thought every time you looked at me, you blamed yourself. I did. So did I. We sat together, without trying to make the grief smaller. The truth had not removed Iris's absence. It had only removed the shame wrapped around it. That was enough for one day. The investigation then turned to Adrian. He had always claimed that he accepted the inherited diagnosis because every medical authority agreed. The old records proved that was false. The attending cardiologist had repeatedly described the genetic finding as uncertain. During formal questioning, Adrian was asked whether Celeste had ever said anything suggesting she had intervened in Iris's care. At first, he said no. Then investigators presented a calendar entry showing that he had met privately with Celeste before our divorce was finalized. In a message arranging that meeting, Celeste had written that she needed to explain what she had tried to stop at Briarwood. Adrian requested a break. Afterward, he changed his answer. He admitted that Celeste had told him she had intervened because she believed the doctors were putting Iris at risk. She had not described exactly what she had done. He never asked. He never told me. When I confronted him after his statement, he looked older than I remembered. You knew she had done something. I knew she had argued with the doctors. That isn't what she told you. She said she tried to stop them from making the situation worse. And you never wondered what that meant. I had just lost my daughter. So had I. He looked away. I was not thinking clearly. You were clear enough to file for divorce. His face tightened. I believed the genetic report. You chose the version that protected your mother. I didn't know about the video. You knew enough to ask a question. He pressed both hands against the table. What do you want me to say? The truth. I was afraid. It was the first honest answer he had given me. He had been afraid that questioning Celeste would destroy the image of his family he depended upon. He had been afraid that admitting uncertainty would leave him alone with grief. Blaming me had been easier because I possessed less authority and fewer resources. I should have told you, he said. Yes. I should have asked her what she meant. Yes. I can correct my statement. You can tell the truth under oath. His eyes lifted toward mine. Will that change anything between us? No. The answer was not cruel. It was final. Adrian's truthful statement changed the investigation. It proved that Celeste's interference was not a theory created 8 years later. She had privately acknowledged intervening before the hospital completed its review. It also proved that Adrian had possessed reason to doubt the bloodline accusation before our divorce ended. He had chosen not to know more. Briarwood suspended every remaining honor attached to Celeste's name. Her portrait disappeared from the patient safety wing. The hospital notified the medical licensing board and state investigators. Celeste responded by accusing the hospital of sacrificing her to protect itself. In one respect, she was right. Briarwood had allowed her authority to replace proper oversight. Staff members had deferred to her even though she was personally connected to Iris. The safety office had permitted her influence over a review involving her own granddaughter. The records department had accepted the misclassification of preserved footage without examining why it had been moved. Celeste was responsible for what she did. Briarwood was responsible for allowing her to control what happened afterward. The final independent report was completed several weeks later. Dr. Chen asked my mother and me to attend the presentation. Adrian came separately. Celeste appeared with legal counsel. She did not look at me when she entered. The investigators presented the evidence in chronological order. Iris's condition had been responding to the prescribed medication. The treatment was deliberately interrupted. The interruption occurred while Celeste was alone inside the restricted area. Her access credentials opened the room. The medication system recorded the change. Iris's condition deteriorated after the interruption. The inherited variant could not explain that decline. Celeste influenced the internal review, promoted the inherited diagnosis, and caused the recording to be moved away from the main case file. No single document carried the complete truth. Together, they left nowhere for the lie to stand. Celeste listened with her hands folded in front of her. When the investigators finished, her attorney said the evidence did not establish an intention to cause harm. One of the reviewers answered that intention and causation were separate questions. Celeste finally looked at me. "The treatment team was refusing to listen," she said. "I believed the medication was placing Iris at greater risk. You were not assigned to her care. I had more experience than everyone in that room. That did not make her yours to experiment on." Her expression changed. "I did not experiment on her. You interfered with treatment that was working. I intended to force a reassessment. By putting my daughter at risk. I believed a short interruption would be safe." The room became silent. It was the first time Celeste admitted what she had done without hiding behind professional language. She had not entered Iris's room intending to kill her. She had entered because she could not tolerate being overruled. When the consequences proved her wrong, she protected her reputation by shifting the blame to me. "Why did you hide the recording?" I asked. Celeste looked toward her attorney. "I waited." Finally, she answered. "Because no one would have understood the context." "You mean they would have understood exactly what you did?" "I spent 30 years protecting children. And when one child needed protection from you, everyone was too afraid to question you." Adrian lowered his head. Celeste turned toward him. "You know I was trying to help." He did not answer immediately. For most of his life, silence had been how he agreed with her. This time, he looked up. "You told me Mara's family caused it. The genetic evidence. You knew the evidence was uncertain. I was trying to keep our family from collapsing. You let me destroy it." Celeste's control disappeared for only a moment. Then she looked at me again. "You could have challenged the diagnosis." "I did." The preservation request sat inside the evidence file between us. "I challenged it," I continued. "Your hospital told me the recording did not exist." Celeste had no answer for that. The independent panel concluded that Iris's fatal decline resulted from the unauthorized interruption of her essential medication. The inherited disorder finding was formally rejected. Briarwood authorized an immediate correction of Iris's medical record. The state reopened the investigation into her death. For the first time in 8 years, an official document stated that my family had not caused what happened. I expected to feel triumphant. I did not. I felt tired. Truth had arrived, but it had brought the full weight of what had been taken from us. Celeste eventually lost her medical license, and every professional honor Briarwood had once attached to her name. The evidence led to her conviction for involuntary manslaughter, unauthorized interference with medication, and concealment of evidence. Briarwood publicly acknowledged its failures. The hospital accepted civil responsibility and created independent rules, preventing senior employees from influencing reviews involving relatives. Preserved patient evidence could no longer be moved without multiple documented approvals. The hospital offered a settlement. The first version included confidentiality restrictions. I rejected it. The second acknowledged the false diagnosis, the concealed recording, and Briarwood's failure to protect Iris's case from Celeste's influence. I accepted that version. Part of the restitution funded a patient record advocacy program in Iris's name. Its purpose was simple. When families raised documented concerns, those concerns could not quietly disappear inside the institution being questioned. Adrian provided a sworn retraction of every accusation he had made about me and my family. He asked to meet once more after the case ended. We sat across from each other in the same Briarwood conference room where I had first watched the recording. "I'm sorry," he said. I believed that he regretted what he had done. That did not mean I owed him a restored relationship. You were grieving, I said, but you made me carry all of it because your mother told you to. I know. You treated uncertainty as proof when it was being used against me. When you heard something that might have implicated her, you chose not to ask. I know. I forgive myself for believing you. He waited, perhaps hoping I would say more. I did not. Some apologies repair relationships. Others simply confirm why the relationship must remain over. My mother and I returned home with the corrected genetic report. Ruth removed her old copy from the red folder and replaced it with the new one. For the first time, she touched the yellow blanket without apologizing. Several months later, Briarwood issued Iris's amended death record. I sat at my kitchen table with the keepsake box in front of me. I placed the corrected record inside. Beside it, I laid the red genetic folder, Iris's hospital bracelet, and the yellow blanket my mother had made for her. Her name remained visible on the bracelet. Iris Vale. For 8 years, people with more authority than I had decided what her death meant. They said it proved something was wrong with my family. They said my questions were grief. They said the recording did not exist. The amended record could not return my daughter. It could not give my mother back the years she spent blaming herself. It could not restore the person I had been before Adrian turned loss into accusation. But it returned the truth to Iris's name. I closed the keepsake box. The grief was still mine. The shame was not.